turning them over to you. You guys are in good hands.
Yep. Thanks, Mindy. And I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful trainer, Cori. I've been working with Mindy on the smart install here, a rollout that we're doing this summer. Super excited to be bringing this new software and some new displays that will be coming later this summer. But Cori, she's our in-house smart trainer. She's certified on Smart, on Microsoft, on Google. So she's a wealth of knowledge. So please ask as many questions as you have, as she's a great resource. Super excited to be able to put this together for you guys. I do have to run, but please, through Mindy, let me know if there's any follow-up, anything that we need to do to help you guys be successful. So I certainly appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Andy.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right.
Have a good one, guys. Thank you.
I was told that this is the group that will be getting those new boards that are being installed in the district. So I want to take you through. I actually have the same model here today. So I'm going to take you through using that board. But I'm also going to share my screen. So let me know right now. If I'm sharing my screen, in your view, do you see my camera and the screen, or do you just see the screen? You can see both? Okay. So the reason I'm doing that is because when I get up and go to the board, I want you guys to be able to see what I'm writing clearly with the screen share, but also see what I'm doing up here. So we're going to actually go back to the beginning. We're going to start on the Android, which is the built-in computer on this board. So when you have the Android, you'll see you have that background, you have the clock. What's really nice is if you click on your little icon here in the corner, and this one's not screen sharing, I know, and you hit that sign in, you could actually sign in with your Microsoft account, and your Smart Learning Suite files are going to follow you to the board. So you can theoretically do this without your laptop connected to the computer. You can have all your files just load right onto that board. And then, now I'm not logged in right now, so you're not going to see my files. But right here at the bottom, you click File, and all your files follow you from your OneDrive to the board. Now, this is only going to be Smart Learning files. So your Words, your Excel, all of those documents don't follow you. Only the Smart files do. But the board will pull everything from your cloud. The whiteboard that's built into the board is very, very basic. So we're not going to go through it completely. I just want you to see that you could, if you like, let's say lunchtime, it's raining out, so the kids come back to the classroom for recess. You could just pull up a whiteboard and, the kids could play, they can have to hit a pen, but the kids could play like tic-tac-toe, they can play hangman, it's just a whiteboard. So it's just something very nice and simple that you have access to without ever plugging a computer in. So this is all that built-in Android. Also in that built-in Android, you have apps. Now here's the thing with the apps. It's a bit of a misnomer. It's not actually an application. It is a bookmark. So for example, here I have Microsoft Word, but when I click on Microsoft Word, when I click on Microsoft Word, it is just opening my browser and going to Office 365. So be aware that they call them apps, but they're really just shortcuts. All right, so now we're going to go into the computer, and I'm going to reshare the screen because I think the screen share unshared when I switched over to the Android anyway. So to do that, there's two different places you can do this. On the bottom of the board, you have your buttons, and one of the buttons is an arrow with a square around it. And when you click on that, you'll see that it brings up a preview of all of my inputs. And since my computer is plugged into HDMI 2, you see the preview for HDMI 2. So now I'm back on my computer, and can you see the computer screen, or should I stop sharing and reshare? I'm going to stop sharing and reshare just to be sure. And I see that you have somebody currently like right
I
on the computer.
was going to tell you some of the stuff you're showing we can't see very well because we see your main screen
Okay.
of your computer. So I don't know if we need to make you bigger or.
All right, so wait, if I stop sharing the screen.
We can see you, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go backwards and show you the tablet, the Android again. I apologize, that was my bad. So right now we are looking at the Android screen. So as I had mentioned, you do have that built-in whiteboard to the Android. The built-in whiteboard is very, very basic. You just have a couple color pens. You can do an image search. And then you have some widgets, but the widgets are not very customizable on the whiteboard. So if you've used Notebook before, you know that you can customize the widgets. The widgets don't really customize on the Android. All right. The apps that I was talking about is down here at the bottom. You'll see it says apps. When you look at those apps, though, you can add other ones. They really are just bookmarks. They are not applications like you would see on a cell phone or on a computer. All right. So next thing, the files. Right up here in the corner, you have that little silhouette. And when you click on the silhouette, you get the sign in. When you sign in, it gives you Google or Microsoft. I know your school is a Microsoft school, so you would click sign in with Microsoft. And that is how you would be able to access your cloud files from Smart Learning Suite. All right. The buttons on the bottom, the home button takes you back to the Android. The input button is what lets you change between the Android, your computer, or whatever else you have plugged in. You have a curtain. If you hit the curtain, it just blacks out the screen. So if you just need to get the kids to refocus their attention, you hit that curtain and the screen just goes black.
What you're saying with the Android is the smartboard itself?
The curtain will work even if you're on a computer. That curtain button is just, it blacks the screen. Whatever's being displayed, it turns it off.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The pause button is for when you're connected to a computer. So do you remember in your old-fashioned projectors, you had the freeze button on your remote? And you could like freeze one slide of the PowerPoint while you on your computer were doing something else?
Nope. We didn't do that.
Oh, okay. Well, that is what the pause button does. It freezes whatever's on the screen. Technically, it works in the Android, but I wouldn't use it in the Androids because since you can't be looking at your computer screen, you would have no idea what you're doing while it's frozen. And then you have your volume control. These built-in speakers are 15 watts each. I just want you to know that these speakers on this board are possibly louder than whatever you're listening to me on right now. They are extremely loud if you go full volume. Like, I've never heard any teacher go, I can't hear these speakers. They are very, very loud. All right, so I mentioned that input button. So I'm going to go back to the computer screen now, and you can see I have that lovely, just infinite showing me. So I'm going to go back to screen share the screen, because what I'm going to be showing you is it's more important to see the screen itself. I want you to know the camera's there because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing, but what the screen is showing is going to definitely be more important. So this is Notebook. Some of you have used this software before. Some of you might not know it. I'm looking at your camera right now. Raising your hands, how many of you have used Notebook? Okay, all of you. How many of you are comfortable with Notebook? Okay. How many of you have, just so I know, how many of you have used the cloud, like the Google, I'm so tongue-tied right now. How many of you have used the Smart Cloud? All right, so we're going to spend the majority of our time today on the cloud. That's perfect. There are just a couple of tricks in Notebook that I want to show you because honestly, until I started training on Smart, I didn't know some of this stuff existed. So I like to just share it out with teachers. So the first thing I'm going to share with you guys is that magic pen, because most of you, being that you're familiar, you probably know the magic pen is disappearing ink, correct? You've seen that before? All right, I just need to draw something on the screen so that the next piece makes sense. All right, so the next thing with the magic pen that most teachers don't know, which is why I want to show you this, is if you draw a circle with your magic pen, it changes it to a spotlight. So if you need to quickly get your kids to focus on one thing on the screen, draw a circle with that magic pen, and you have your spotlight. In a different tool, same magic pen, if you draw a rectangle, it's going to magnify it. And you can then drag the magnifying glass and go all the way down to the pixels. So this is great in like geography, if you're looking at maps, in science, if you're looking at cells. You can draw a rectangle and magnify whatever you're looking at. So I really like to just point those two tools out when I'm doing training on Notebook and Smart Learning Suite, because again, a lot of people don't know that exists. I did think of one other thing though that I want to show you guys, and that has to do with the actual board. So just so I know, I'm looking again at the camera. Right now, I believe you guys have older smart boards, correct? Do you have the ones with projectors, or do you have one that looks like what I have in front of me? Projectors. Okay. What is the biggest pain in the behind when it comes to those projectors?
Bulb blowing.
The bulb blowing. Okay. These have the backlight in these panels lasts about 10 years of normal use. So you will not have to worry about these screens, the lights blowing. I say normal use. I was told approximately 10 hours a day for 5 days a week, 10 years. Whether that's true or not, I'm not the one who's been testing them, but that's what I was told is the lifespan. What's the other annoying thing about those smart boards with projectors?
Shadows.
Shadows. Well, look, I'm standing in front of my board. There are no shadows. All right, and there's one more thing that the first thing most teachers complain about, and none of you have said it yet, or at least I haven't heard it.
Yeah, it needs connected and it never works.
When it's connected, it never works. Okay. The thing I was thinking about is that.
Yep.
How often do you have to do that with the projector?
Every time you turn it on.
Every time you turn it on. Well, guess what? You never have to do it with the board. So the panels, I have been using this panel for about 6 months now since they got me the smaller one for my studio. This is the 55-inch. I believe you guys are getting 65-inch boards installed in your school. I have never, with the exception of the very first time you take it out of the box and hang it up on the wall, I have never had to calibrate one of these boards. The pen just works. So it is awesome. Now, this board actually does have 20 points of touch. So I just put a regular pen for a second. So I'm going to show you. I could write with my hand like this. I could write with 2 fingers, 3 fingers. Let me put a blank screen. Because watch this, 10 fingers. I do not know why one finger looks blue. They should have all been black. But you can have 20 points of touch, which means if your kids are small enough that you could fit 20 kids up at your board, they could all be writing at the same time with their finger. 20 points of touch. All right.
They can also move objects too.
Yep. So I have to go back to the arrow, but yeah, I can move an object. I can move an object. Now moving objects tends to be one at a time because as soon as you click on the next object, you see how the box moves?
Yeah.
So moving objects is pretty much one at a time, but in terms of writing and stuff, you could have 20 touching. The pen, you have, the board comes with 2 pens. the board can't tell the difference between pen A and pen B. So both pens are always going to be the same thing. The board can tell the difference between the pen and your hand. So I could, and whatever you click on the toolbar with, that's the tool that's going to do it. So if I click on a purple pen with the pen, and I click on a red, well, let's do blue pen with my finger, I can write two colors. If I have the two pens and a hand and 5 fingers, notice that for some reason it thought the pens were blue. That is just a weird quirk. I don't know why the pens, maybe it's because I'm holding the two tips so close to each other. But yeah, you can write in 2 colors simultaneously. All fingers would be 1 color, both pens would be a 2nd color. What I've seen a lot of teachers do is they'll set like, they'll set the pen to be a pen. They'll set their finger to be a highlighter. So then they could be going through the lesson, they could be writing, and then they just take their finger to highlight important things. So it's really flexible. It gives you those options. And again, no shadows, no calibration. And this screen, like a lot of people, like I said, you guys are getting those 65-inch. A lot of teachers in the past, they hear 65-inch and they're like, that's really small. How are the kids going to see it? This screen is 4K. This 65-inch screen, and again, mine right here is 55, but your 65-inch screen is going to be easier to see than a 100-inch projector because it's not going to have that little fuzziness that the projectors tend to have. There's not going to be any shadow. It doesn't matter if your room has direct sunlight on the board or if you're in pitch black. You're going to be able to see the board very clearly in any lighting conditions. So again, the board itself is just a great piece of hardware. The other thing that I love is the activities. So I'm sure since you guys are familiar with Notebook, you know all of the activities that you can create games and stuff. Does anyone want me to go over some of those activities in Notebook, or do you want to just go right into the cloud and, you know, get into that cloud lesson of the new stuff you don't know yet?
Where did you open that up at, the activity?
Okay, so the activities is this little icon. They call it a monster. I think it looks more like a robot. The actual like design of it kind of looks like this. See, I think it looks like a robot. It's a pixelated robot. They call it a monster. But it is right up on the top. If you don't have some things on your toolbar that you want, on the top right, you'll have that little picture of a gear, and you can drag anything. So like I could take that little activities guy and I could drag him in. I could take clear all my ink and I can drag it in. So you can add whatever you want to your toolbar if you know it's a tool you're going to use. The only tool that you guys will not need, this one that says dual write mode, that was designed for those old boards with projectors before you had that 20 points of touch and the differentiation between your finger and the pen. Dual write mode allowed 2 kids to write at the same time in different colors, but it put like this imaginary dotted line down the screen. You don't have to use that anymore because the board can tell the difference. So don't worry about that dual mode, you don't need it. But yeah, so those are all the different tool options. Have any of you used the split screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I won't go into showing split screen then. That's pretty much all of the smart tools that I really love in Notebook that I like to recommend whenever I start out with Notebook before going into the cloud. All right, so we are actually going to take this like really scribbly, crazy presentation, and I'm going to save it. So I'm going to actually sit down at my desk now. I'll move the camera so you can actually see me. And I'm going to do a file, save as, and I'm going to save the notebook. So now that this notebook is saved as Halifax demo, we're going to push it into the cloud. So I'm going to hit File, Share. And you'll see it says upload a copy of this lesson to your smart account. So I hit upload and it is saving this file into my cloud. The reason we're going to get into why the cloud, what the differences are and all of that stuff in a moment. I just wanted to show you how to upload it. So if you start in Notebook, all you have to do is hit File, Share. And you'll see in a few moments that this file is now in my cloud. So I'm going to exit out of Notebook and take you into the cloud.
When you did the file save as, what were you saving it to?
I saved it to my desktop just because it's a demo and I just wanted to know where it was really quick.
Okay.
But it's going to upload to the cloud. And when I show you the cloud, I'll show you where it's saved.
Sure.
Okay. So this right here, and I'm going to just turn off my smart pen tools because I hate those things. They drive me nuts sometimes. So I'm going to hide them. And you'll see that by hitting the little blue box and hitting hide smart tools, it got rid of one of those little tools. And it gives me the option to close them. Good. All right. So this is the teacher view of a presentation in the cloud. And what I'm going to have you guys do right now is I'm going to have you join my class as a student. So we could start by having you kind of experience what your kids would experience. How many of you know how to use an incognito window? Okay, are you on Chrome or are you on Safari or are you on Firefox? What browser are you using right now? Varies, okay. I know Chrome and Firefox, I believe, are the same. In the top right corner of your browser, you should see those three little dot menu. And if you click on it, there's an option that says New Incognito Window. So that is what you want. You want to get to that new incognito window. And what an incognito window does, it tells you right here on Chrome. It says it won't save your browsing history, your cookies, any information you put in. The reason you want to do this right now is because we're going to sample the student mode, but then I'm going to have you log in as teachers. And sometimes if you try to switch quickly between student to teacher mode, Smart can't keep up and it's like giving you an error that says you're a student, you can't be a teacher. So by logging in incognito as a guest, it's just going to save us that hassle when we switch over to teacher mode in a little bit. So you're going to go to that incognito window and I'm going to click right here on the silhouette of people. And then I'm going to click on my name in the top corner and it's going to give you exactly what you need. You need to go to hellosmart.com and when it prompts you, you're going to click sign in as a guest. You're then going to put that 6-digit code and join the class. Now, when your students log in with their Microsoft, I believe actually yesterday I was told the students use Google accounts. So the teachers are Microsoft, but the students are Google. But whatever the students log in with, they're going to log in with their actual accounts. And we're going to talk about the benefits of the accounts versus the cloud or versus the guest in a moment, but I want you guys to log in first. I see 3 of you are already in. 4.
Again.
What was that?
Google or Microsoft.
Yeah, so again, you're logging in as a guest today just because this is a professional development and you don't want to mess up your account to think you're a student instead of a teacher. All right, so I see I have 8 people logged in, 9. Anyone else still need that 6-digit code or can I take it off the screen? All right, I'm going to take it off the screen then. And my presentation started out with some of the stuff we were talking about. So obviously this slide we didn't talk about yet, but if I look, you'll see like here's my smart notebook toolbar. And
Can you tell us the class ID really quick? We have two.
yeah, 120636.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. And the class ID actually follows the teacher email address. So I put it big like that because it's just easier, but I want you to see that on my slide to start, I apparently deleted it. I did, oh, there it is. I put it right there on my slide because I know my class code never changes. I know some teachers will actually like print it out on a big piece of paper and they like glue it to the wall above their board. So that way, if a student forgets the code, they could always find it in the classroom. So your code is matched to your email address and it does not change. Once the students log in that first time though, that code saves in the student's account as a teacher. So for elementary school, you probably have obviously one teacher, but in the high school where the kids might go to a math teacher and an English teacher and a science teacher, they would see a list of all three classes when they log into Hello Smart and they could pick the correct class for that day. So you will always have the same class code, but the kids could go into different classes. We're going to start back on this first slide that says Smart Learning Suite Online, soon to be Lumio, and Smart Notebook. So next week, they're changing the name, and that's why I put the soon to be Lumio. What's happening is Smart has realized that Smart Learning Suite Online is a mouthful. And they also know that it's confusing teachers because Smart Suite is the umbrella. Notebook and the cloud are both Smart Learning Suite. So when they called it Smart Learning Suite Online, it confuses people. So now you're going to have Notebook and Lumio so that they have different names, but they work together, they sync together, and that's the only thing changing next week is the name. Smart Notebook is much better for in class at the board. If your students are going to be coming up to the board to move things around, or your students are going to physically come up to the board to play games, stay in Notebook because Notebook has more pen options, it has more editing functionality, and it's just overall a better experience at the physical board. Smart Learning Suite, on the other hand, is cloud-based. You could access this from any internet-enabled device. You guys are all on my presentation right now on your computers, and you're going to notice that right now you're stuck on the same slide as me, or you should be. Let me double check. Yep. So when I click here on the little silhouette of my people, I see my list of names, and I also see that right now it says lesson pacing teacher. In a few moments, I'm going to put it in student pace so you can see the difference. But what you're going to notice is on yours, these arrows are grayed out and your computer is forced to follow along with me. If I switch slides, your computers are all changing slides with me. But now what we're going to do, and again, you're going to get a copy of this presentation before the end of today, so you'll have all of these notes if you need to refer back. So don't worry that I skipped over the notebook tools and stuff. We kind of just talked about it briefly before. All right. So right now there's a video that says, what is Smart Learning Suite Online? All of your devices have a play button. However, you are all sitting in the same room with each other. So if you were to hit play, you would all have it coming out of your speakers individually. So I'm going to hit play on my end and it's going to come through the Zoom call. But that way you can see the video because it's about a minute and a half, but it really does a great job of just introducing the benefits of Smart Learning Suite.
Welcome to Smart Learning Suite Online, where it's easy to turn your learning content into interactive lessons that engage your students on a whole new level. Magically deliver lessons to student devices, whether they're learning in class, remotely, or on their own time. Start with your favorite content, including PDFs, PowerPoint files, Google Slides, YouTube videos, or a blank lesson. Then bring it to life by adding images, text, and embedded video. Enhance with customizable game-based activities, ready-made content, and more. You can even record instructional audio right in your web browser that students can play back as many times as they like for guidance and support anywhere, anytime. Students connect to your lesson in a web browser on any device, either in person or remotely with web conferencing. Guide them through your lesson, or let students explore at their own pace and easily change delivery modes at any time with the push of a button. Students work on their own copy of the activities while you observe and give feedback in real time using that activities dashboard. Outside of class, students can continue their work on their own time with your audio instruction to guide them. For more insight to learning, you can add live polls, formative assessments, and game-based quizzes. Connect students and spark collaboration even at a distance with whole class or small group collaborative activities with a shared canvas. Students work together to contribute text, images, ink, web links, and more simultaneously in class and remotely. You can easily view which students added and edited items and add your feedback in real time. After the project is finished, you and your students can review it later with all the day's great learning captured. Smart Learning Suite Online works with the classroom tools you already use daily for less context switching and tech headaches, making it easy for everyone to learn and use. Save time, foster strong connections, and support your students everywhere. Make learning more meaningful with Smart Learning Suite Online. Try it out for free at suite.smarttech.com.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second because I'm actually gonna switch my screen since I'm sitting at the desk now. So the first thing I want to ask you guys is, when you were watching that, what did you notice about the YouTube video? Like, what's one thing that you didn't see, I should say? What do you normally see at the beginning of a YouTube video that did not happen on here? I see someone's hand looks like it's up, but I don't think they wanted to shout out. You can shout out, it's fine. Say it one more time, I couldn't hear you.
Advertisement?
Yes, so there are no advertisements at the beginning of the videos when you embed them into Smart Learning Suite. As soon as you hit that play button, the video plays. Now you'll notice if I pause it, I do get those more videos. And at the end of the video, it does kind of give you like recommendations for future videos. So it doesn't get rid of everything, but it does get rid of the ads at the beginning. The other thing is, because it has that play button, if you had students at home, the students at home could watch the video themselves rather than sharing it through the Zoom call. And that's a really good benefit, because sometimes when you are streaming video through Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, whatever platform, the videos will lag and they get annoying. Like, you'll start to see like buffering and all of that. So by letting the kids hit play on their own and then coming back together as a group, it definitely improves the overall video experience. Now, if they're all physically in the same room like you guys are and you all hit play, you're obviously going to get a lot of sound from a lot of devices that are going to be a little bit out of sync. So whether or not you hit play as the teacher and have everyone watch together, or everyone hits play on their own, is going to depend on where your students are currently located. So this slide right here just talks about that name change. Again, like I mentioned, they're changing their name on June 26th. I can come over here with a pen. I could circle that just to show you that you can edit these slides as you go. As I circled it though, I want to just point out, notice the toolbar on Smart Learning Suite is much less than the toolbar on Notebook. So I only have a single pen and a highlighter. That's it, pen, highlighter, and 5 colors. eraser, text box. Now, if I go to type, you're going to notice I only have 5 fonts. So it is very limited compared to what you would have in Notebook. So that's the main reason why I say if you're going to be at the board, you want to use Notebook. It's because it has a lot more functionality for that interaction on the board. So the slide that is open on your screen right now, you should see a button that says Start. And what's going to happen is these were my 4 students from yesterday because I didn't clear them out. But when you hit Start on your screen, Liz's name just popped up, or Carrie, I think, one of you just popped up. Shannon just popped up. As you hit Start, I see your names. Now, the only reason you're seeing it today is because I'm screen sharing. If your students are at home, they would not see this. So what you're seeing on the screen share is the teacher view. What you're seeing on your device is the student view. And that's a really important distinction too, because some of these activities, you need to be using your board. Because some of these activities, the interactiveness really is reliant on having the students able to see the teacher side. So when you do this activity, as I said, you notice the names pop up when the students hit Start. This is really great for knowing if your kids actually struggled or knowing if your kids didn't even try it. So let's say that John Doe comes into class tomorrow and he goes, I couldn't do the homework, I didn't get it. And you pull up the list and you don't even see John Doe's name. Well, John Doe didn't even look at the homework then. Their name will only show up once they hit Start. Now, if they hit Start, so of course, Nicole actually did something. Let's see if anyone, so like here, MB, his slide is blank, or her slide. I don't know who MB is. The slide is blank. They opened it, but they didn't do anything. But that's the difference between the I didn't get it and I didn't open it. Once they hit open, even if it's blank, you as the teacher will know they opened the assignment. When you look at that list of names, you'll see like Nicole here marked herself as done. So I'm going to click on Nicole's, and she drew this beautiful smiley face and she put the word fun. I can come over to my text box or my pen and I can say, great job. Only Nicole will see that the teacher sent her a comment back because it's on Nicole's page. Now I come up here to the arrows and it takes me back to my list of students. I can click on a different student. Marcy wrote, good morning, everyone. If I want to just go student to student and I'm not going to click random names, I can use the arrows over here and it'll just go scroll through the kids. You know, I'm starting to think that that meme is the first thing that comes up because I feel like I see that meme every time I do this icebreaker with different groups. It's a good meme, but it's funny that everyone picks the same one. All right. So this is what's called a handout. And the benefit of the handouts is you now have your students engaged because they're not just staring at your screen while you're talking, they're actually participating. We're currently synchronous, so you are all working with the teacher, but I will show you before the end of today's session how to get a hyperlink to this notebook file that you can share out to your students for asynchronous learning. So I believe yesterday in the high school session, they said you guys use Schoology. Is that correct? Or does the elementary school use something different? Okay. So you will be able to share these files to your students through Schoology, and they would be able to log on anytime and do the work. I also know some teachers will make notebooks for review. So if you're trying to teach your kids multiplication, I know one teacher that made an entire slide deck of games, and each game was the ones table, the twos table, the three table, and the teacher can't grade it. It's legitimately just for review and practice. So the students can click on that link and play multiplication math games when they just want to practice. Okay. So when we get into editing our Smart Learning Suite files in a few moments, you'll see that you'll have this box that pops up that says add content. And we're going to go into it real time. So again, I'm giving you these screenshots so that you have them for reference, but we are going to actually be doing this together. So you can import notebook files, PowerPoints, Google Slides, and PDFs. So if you have any of those files, you can import them into Smart Learning Suite. You could also combine any of those 4 file types. The only thing you cannot combine is a SLS file. SLS is Smart Learning Suite. That's the extension name for the cloud files. So when you take a notebook and you import it to the cloud, it actually uploads as an SLS file. Once it's an SLS file, it cannot currently be combined with another one. So just be aware that notebooks, PowerPoint, Google Slides, and PDF can all be merged and converted. Once it's an SLS file, though, it cannot be merged with a different SLS file. So I wanted you to be aware of that. If you are a teacher that came from a school that had Promethean boards, I also gave you an extra slide on how to export your Active Inspire files and import them to Notebook. So I don't believe any of your schools had Promethean boards, but if you had worked in a different district first, I left that slide in here just for reference. And then one of my biggest tips is it's really easier to start in either Google Slides or PowerPoint and then convert it. So as I mentioned, you can make a file directly in the cloud, but the editing is very, very limited. So by starting in a different program and importing it, you're going to have a more graphically pleasing presentation overall. This slide just kind of says anything stagnant. So any non-interactive features you're going to do in your PowerPoint or your Google slide. Any interaction is going to be added after you import it to the cloud. So those are the steps. It's create the stagnant stuff, import the file, add the interactivity, and then you present. It's very, very easy. I know that sounds a little scary, but again, we're going to go through that in real time in a moment. All right. You guys don't use Google Drive, so I'm going to skip that. This is really important, and this is one of those activities where I mentioned I'm going to actually take you guys. Yes, I heard someone's voice.
We do use Google Drive.
Oh, you do use Google Drive. So the high school uses OneDrive and you use Google Drive?
No, they use both, OneDrive and Google.
Okay, all right, then let me go back to that slide. We're gonna have to check with your school of what they set your smart accounts to then, because I thought you guys were doing logging in with Microsoft, but if you're logging in with Google, it's a little bit different. So when you're using Google Drive, both of these programs, suite.smarttech.com and Google Drive, will both end up creating the files in the same spot. The difference is the organization. And Google Drive's organization is just much, much better. And that connection is there. So it's so much easier to go through Google Drive than go directly through Smart. Again, yesterday I was told you guys used Microsoft, so I had skipped the Google stuff. I feel bad for the high school teachers now, but they didn't correct me, so thank you for correcting me. We're going to also have to check if you guys have that connection made though. So if you are going to be using Google Drive, just to zoom in, Smart Learning Suite is one of the options under More. However, you might have to connect it. And depending on the way your school is set up, your administrator might have to connect it. So when we get in there in a moment, we will check that out for you. So the smart activities are similar to what, and when I say similar, I mean they're identical to what you would create in Notebook. They are your interactive games that you can add your own content and the kids can play. The difference is in Notebook, the kids have to physically walk up to the board to manipulate it. In Smart Learning Suite, the kids can be logged into this Hello Smart and they can play it on their computer. The problem is, as the teacher, you cannot see student activity in the Smart activities. You won't know if they played the game. You won't know if they were successful in answering the questions of the game. It is just for review and reinforcement. There is no current method of grading those assignments. There's a workaround where you teach your kids how to take a screenshot, but there is no internal method of grading those Smart activities. On the other hand, you as the teacher can create the activities. When you create the activities, they're not going to be as beautiful unless you're a graphic designer, but you will be able to grade them. You will be able to see student progress, and it's just better for assessment and for data collection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now switch to student paced, because slides number 19 and 20 are a sample of it. So 19 is a teacher made activity. 20 is a Smart made activity. So what I'm going to do is I come over here to my icon of the people. There we go. And I switch to student paced. You're going to notice that your arrows are no longer grayed out and you can go back and forth on your own between slides. So I want to give you a few moments to just see the difference between, again, slide 19 is a teacher made and slide 20 is a Smart made. So go ahead and play those two different games. They are the exact same fill in the blank, but this way you can see as the teacher the difference for your students, and then we're going to discuss it. And I'm going to turn my smart board so I can see you guys a little better. If I could just have one person in the room kind of give me a thumbs up when you as a group are ready to discuss it. I don't want to stop you from playing too soon. Do you need another minute, or you see the difference between the two? So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go actually back to teacher paced, and I am going to do what's called a shout out. And what I would like for you to do is I would like you're going to see a text box open on your screen. I want you to write, and I'm going to turn off display names so it's anonymous. I would like you to write what you thought about the two games, like the comparison, if you preferred one versus the other, and how you think you can use this information with your students when you go back to the class in September. Like, how might you use these type of activities? And I know that's a lot of things to put in a text box, but you could actually put 5 text boxes, so you can hit submit, just start the discussion, and then you can see how the shout out works. So it's a little twofold, discussion and demonstration. So we're starting to get some responses. So if you guys look back up at the shared screen on the projector, you're going to notice that while the students just have the text box, the teacher has this little push pin board that all of those text boxes are sending to. So that's why I said somebody wrote they left the room. How did you write it if you left? But so that's the nice thing about the shout outs. They can be used for so many different things. Now, I did mention to you guys that I was making it anonymous, so I turned your names off. But that's another thing I want to demonstrate to you. If I click on the gear, I could actually still see the list of names. So if I wanted to, I could match up the shape with the person. I could also toggle the names back on. So toggle on and off. This is really good because in elementary school, you probably won't do this as much as high school, but let's say you're having like an advisory period and you want the kids to write about bullying or any kind of sensitive subject, and you want them to feel safe in your class to share. If you turn off those names, the students won't see who wrote it. They won't know if it was Johnny or if it was Sarah. They're just going to see a text box. As the teacher, if something a kid wrote was disturbing, after class, I can see the comment, I could turn the names back on, and I could take a screenshot of the comment with the student's name, and I could forward that to the guidance counselor, I could forward that to the principal. So in terms of being a mandated reporter and just overall caring about your kids, you can know who wrote it. But to your students, it would have been anonymous. So they wouldn't know who was who. Only you as the teacher can go back in after and find that. So really great. Also, if you click on one of those boxes, it makes it bigger so everyone can read it. So it could be used as a vocabulary review, closed passages, etc. Both activities were exactly the same, but the Smart Suite one was visually appealing. Both games were fun. The kids enjoyed doing both Teacher Made and Learning Suite Made. I like the self-checking activity as we're practicing addition facts. It would be nice for kids to see their answers and correct if necessary. I like both activities. I could use either in my remote PE lessons to summarize learning at the end of the lesson. Excellent. And I see a lot of you are agreeing that the Smart Made activity was much more graphically pleasing. And that's what I mentioned. I said, I can go into the handout and I can check your work. I can see if you drag the words to the right spot. I can't see anything with the fill in the blank on the music. Now, the fill in the blank isn't as animated as some of the other games, but I used it as the example because it's just the easiest to really see the difference. All right. So what I want to do now, before I'm going to show you here that you can turn any of the stagnant pages into interactive, but we're going to demonstrate this. So we're going to click on the plus sign and add a blank page. Literally, blank page. Now, when I click on the silhouette, I can change this into a collaborative workspace activity. The icebreaker we did before was a handout. Handout means each kid gets an individual copy. Collaborative workspace means I can put you onto teams. Now, I could put the entire class on one team together, or I can make 3 teams. Notice it randomly assigns you to a team. If you want to rearrange those teams, like let's say I don't know you guys, so I'm just totally picking the first 2 names, but let's say Emily and Greg got in a fight at lunchtime. I don't want them working together. So I'm going to take Emily and I'm going to switch her with Amy. So you can rearrange these names however you want so you are happy with the teams. Once you're happy, click Start Workspace. What's going to now happen is if you draw or text or insert an image, your entire team is working on a single whiteboard. So if Amy posts a picture, Greg sees it. If Greg resizes Amy's picture, Amy sees it. So just go ahead and like scribble or insert stuff. I just want you to see the interaction with you between you and your teammates. And I'm going to click on team 1. So Amy, Greg, and Shannon, your stuff's going to go up on the display. Or we could switch to team 2. Team 2 is in the mood to go to the beach. Love it. I'm curious though, who put the picture of the tree? So if I click on the tree, you'll see there's a bit of an arrow after you click on something, and I can see that Marcy put the palm tree. And I could see that Jess put the lake. And Marcy put the other palm tree. So you as the teacher, even when they're working collaboratively, you can see who did what. MB drew the heart. Carl put the cat. I love how the heart is right on the cat's eye. That is like perfect. But that's how the collaboration works. Something else you're going to notice. Do you see how the pictures all have the source listed? Every picture is going to list the source. And that is another great digital citizenship lesson that you are going to have. All right. We're going to come out of my presentation now and we're going to go into teacher mode. So I just wanted to display my contact information. I will put this up again at the end though. So if you need it, it'll go back up at the end. And again, you will get a copy of this presentation before we finish today. All right. So since you guys do use Google Drive, I would like you to log into your Google accounts. We're going to see if you have the access. If not, we're going to just go straight through Smart today. Yep. Yep, I see you waving your hand like this.
All right, when you did the team activity, I wasn't on a team.
Oh, okay. So when we did that activity.
Yeah, my slides were not where everybody else was, but I couldn't adjust them because you were running the whole thing. It's like I was not on a team and I was just sitting there.
Okay, so well, what happens, and you're going to notice, like I have 9 students on my 3 teams, but I have 11 students in the class. If your computer wasn't logged in when I started the activity, it won't add you late. So that is one downside to the collaborative stuff, because whereas the handouts, you're starting it individually as a student.
I was logged in.
You were, huh?
Yeah, I did that shout out. I was following you, and then after the shout out, everybody's slide went somewhere else, but mine stayed on the shout out.
All right, that's really interesting. I've never heard of that happening, so I'm not like, I can't even make up an answer. I am not sure why that happened.
All right, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that is very odd. So I'll hang on, I'm gonna write a note to myself to look into that. All right. So in Google Drive, what I would like you guys to do just to chat, and you can close out of that incognito window now. In fact, I could even boot you all from the class. And it just kicks you out. But what I want you to do in Google Drive, and you're logged into your account, click New, More, and let me know if Smart Learning Suite is an option for you.
Yes.
It is an option?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So what you're going to do is you can start from your main Drive folder, but what I would recommend doing is creating a folder today that's just called like Smart Training or Demo Training, or just create a folder. It could even be called Untitled, as much as I hate untitled folders, because it's just for the demonstration purposes. And you can delete it after we're done anyway. So you're going to just open up whatever folder you are creating for today's purposes. Once you're in that folder, I want you to go to New, More, and select Smart Learning Suite. You're going to notice it opens a new tab, and that new tab is going to be the Smart Learning Suite. It might prompt you to log in. It might prompt you to select if you're a teacher. So just go through the motions, and you're eventually going to end up at a page that looks like my screen, except yours is only going to have, I'll never be able to scroll all the way down, but it'll just have 2 lessons on it. One that says getting started, and I don't even remember what the second one is, but the very first time you do this, you should only have those 2 files. And you'll also notice, for demonstration purposes, there's that notebook file that I uploaded earlier. It's right there in my Smart Learning Suite.
All right, can you repeat that for all of us? We're making a new folder, and then what?
Okay, so you're going to create a new folder. Let me kind of backtrack a little. If you don't create a new folder, everything you do is just going to end up on your main Google Drive. So it's going to just be unorganized and just there. So create a folder. You can call it whatever you want for today. So you can call it professional development. You can call it smart training. You can call it untitled. Doesn't matter what you call it, but you're just going to create a brand new empty folder. And in fact, I will create a new empty folder myself. So I'm going to hit folder, and we're going to call this the Halifax demo. And I'm going to just open that folder so that I have an empty, never used folder. Once you have that folder created, you are going to go to New, More, and select Smart Learning Suite. And it will open up a new tab, and it's going to bring you into the Smart Learning Suite. Yeah, it's going to, because you guys haven't done it before, it's going to prompt you to sign in. It's going to prompt you to probably accept like the terms of service and all of that stuff.
Did you guys have you said that you're to use your Microsoft accounts for the Smart Learning Suite?
So you guys are going through Microsoft for it?
Yeah, that's what Lizzie said. She has some set up to use.
Okay. So if you're going through your Microsoft accounts, then you're not going to be able to go through Google Drive. So we'll go back to the other way that I was showing you before somebody said that you use Google Drive. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go to the website is called suite.smarttech.com. And I will write that big on the screen so you could all see that. Just give me 1 second. All right. So that is the website you want to go to. It is suite.smarttech.com. And you are just going to log in with your Microsoft account. Again, you're going to accept terms of service. So it's going to say to you, do you agree to use it the way it was designed? And then all that other fine print that nobody ever reads, even though we probably all should. And I know I'm just as guilty of never reading it. And let me know when yes, I see your hand going, waving crazy. Yep.
Don't want to go into the Google Drive, forget that step.
Yes, forget the Google Drive step because you guys are logging in with Microsoft. That's what I was just told. So because you're logging in with Microsoft, you're going to go directly to the suite.smarttech.com. I know, I apologize for confusing you. That's because you guys had said you had Google, so I backtracked and went to Google.
That we use both. So when I try to go in using Chrome, it automatically takes me to
Okay. The person in the pink shirt, I can't really hear you. I see that you're talking. I just couldn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
So I said we use both Chrome, and so we use Google, but when I am trying to open a new tab and go to that Smart Tech, it takes me through our Google account and automatically connects me that way. So we have to go through Safari in order to keep that from happening.
Okay, so it seems like I'm going to have to work with Mindy, and we need to figure out exactly which account you guys are set up to use, and we need to get everyone on the same page, because what happens is the actual licenses, the way that they're registered, it doesn't really let you pick between Google and Microsoft. It's like one or the other, and your administrator set it up.
Said she set them for their Microsoft accounts.
Okay.
We had to double check with her when they started asking about Google. So she said it's the Microsoft accounts.
Okay. So then, yeah, you can't go through the Google Drive, and you have to click the login with Microsoft option. If you log in with Google, it's going to send you to the free trial and not your actual account. As crazy as that sounds, you can theoretically have two accounts with the same email address if one is Google and one is Microsoft. All right, so is everybody at this point on a page that looks like this? Or are we still struggling to get here? I have to say, you guys have some really young teachers in your school. I love it. All right, so let me know when we're ready to move on. So everyone's screen should look similar to mine at this point. If we're still having trouble logging in, let me know and I can try to help you troubleshoot.
Your screen says visit my drive. Cori,
Yes.
your screen says visit my drive, like right underneath the gray training rectangle.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, your microphone is kind of hard to pick up all of you across the room. So can you say that one more time?
Your screen says visit my drive. Underneath the training.
When you say my drive, like I'm not understanding what you're asking. I'm sorry.
Okay. Are you signed in with Google?
No, so we were saying you guys needed to hit the sign in with Microsoft.
Are you yourself signed in with Google?
Oh, yes, I'm signed in with Google.
Okay, that's what I see.
Yeah, so my account is registered through the Google side of it. So even though we have Microsoft Teams and stuff, I can't hit login with Microsoft. It doesn't work for me. It's just, again, it's like I mentioned, it's one or the other, and it doesn't like to switch back and forth very easily. So does everyone's page look like this at this point though? Are they seeing like this purple bar with their name? Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to see that green box that says add activity. And when you click on that, the pop-up menu comes and you'll see that what I showed you that screenshot before. You see the importing your resources. You can import from your local hard drive. You can import from your OneDrive. You have YouTube. You have blank page. Shout it out. So you have all of these options. Down below, you have ready-made resources. They have 21 graphic organizers based on what is most commonly used by teachers. They have manipulatives. Elementary school teachers, you're going to love this. If you're teaching how to count coins, you can bring in this slide with infinite coins and have the kids showing how to make change. You can have fraction bars. As instead of hitting preview, I just actually created a slide. So give it a second to load. So like here you have fraction bars and you can be doing a lesson on fractions with your students. So lots of different activities depending on what you need, what you want to do. Again, I recommend creating your stagnant slides in PowerPoint first and importing it to Smart Learning Suite, because that's going to give you more of the graphic design aspect of it. So what I would like you guys to do right now is I would like you each to just take a moment, hit that green add activity and import a file that you already have. So whether it be a PowerPoint or an old notebook, just import something and add one piece of interactivity. So whether you add a game, whether you add a manipulative, just add something. And to add, you click that blue plus sign on the bottom. So after you import the original presentation, that blue plus sign on the bottom is how you get back to the add content to add another slide. And I just stopped sharing my screen so that I can pull you guys back onto my computer for a moment. So are you guys seeing where to import your PowerPoint or your notebook? All right.
Oh, you do it, I know. Everything.
That's nice to be from your OneDrive.
Your
Original stuff, you would have to convert it to.
All right, so when you guys hit that add activity and you imported something, do you see how you see your slide previews and you can now manipulate it? You can add interactivity to it. All right.
With the license saying you have to be signed up.
So when you're in the edit mode, so if your screen looks like what I have right now, you're going to notice a couple things that I want to point out. The first thing is on the bottom of every slide, it'll say this page is view only on student devices, and it gives you that option to convert it. So if you remember, the icebreaker that we did was a handout. Every student gets their own copy. And that activity we did at the end after the shout out was a workspace. So the workspace is where you have teams. The handout is individuals. So you can decide to turn that into a handout or a workspace just by clicking down at the bottom, convert to activity. The other thing you're going to see down at the bottom, there is this little speech bubble. It's a little head with sound waves coming out of it. If you click on that head, it gives you the ability to record instructions. Hit start. I am recording instructions on how to use the instruction module of Smart Learning Suite. You can sample your recording.
I am recording instructions.
And then if you like it, just click add. And now you're going to notice that that little silhouette is on the top of the slide. Your students can now hear whatever you said. So this is great, especially for elementary school, because if you're, for example, teaching math, your kids might not be at the highest level of reading yet. So the instructions might kind of just go right over their head if they had to try to read them. But if you as the teacher record the instructions, now the students can focus on the math and not the reading directions. Another time I've seen them teachers using this audio feature is if you teach like Spanish or foreign language, they might record it so that the students can hear the pronunciations of the words. So a lot of different benefits. Each slide allows 5 minutes of audio. So you just click on that little person, and I just deleted it because I already had it. but you click on that little person and you just hit start recording. I recommend when you start recording, always wait until it gets to like 1 second, because sometimes the hit record to the microphone actually picking you up takes like a half a second. So if you start talking as soon as you hit the button, it might cut off the first word of your sentence. So I always recommend just waiting until it hits the 1 and then starting to talk. You could add more slides, you can add more activities. For the game-based activities, it's just like we were talking about before. You as the teacher would not be able to see your students' work, but it is definitely graphically beautiful. All right. I'm just trying to, when I just shared my screen, you guys all disappeared from my screen. So let me try this one more time. Oh, that's weird. I definitely, there we go. I found you. All right. So the last thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about sharing your work with your students. So I'm going to click end lesson just so I go back to that home screen that we were talking about before. All of my slide decks, all of my notebooks either have a start or an edit option. If I click edit, it's going to take me back into that edit page. If I click start, it takes me into presentation mode. When you're in presentation mode, you can find that 6-digit code of yours by clicking on the people, and you'll see your name and your ID right at the top. Because obviously this is really tiny, if you click that arrow, it shoots it out large for the students to see. So that's where you find your code. Your code is in 2 places, on your home screen and at the top of the menu. The next thing, if you wanted to do this assignment, if you wanted your kids to be able to just like reference this notebook, so the same way that I told you I would be sending out the link so that you can access this yourself later, you click here on the 3 lines and you'll see the option that says share. When you click share, and I'm going to email this to Mindy, so she'll send you guys the link. That way you don't have to copy it down since you're not all in the Zoom call. Well, I mean, you're in the Zoom call, but you're not all in the chat of the Zoom call. So there's 2 link options. Give a copy of this lesson to other teachers. Let students access this lesson and work at their own pace. You are going to copy that link for the students. Now, the reason why I say you're probably going to post that to your Schoology is because if I come to a whiteboard and I open up a text box and I paste that link, that is a really long hyperlink. Can you imagine if you displayed that on the board and said to the kids, all right, type that in? Like right now, if I said to you, all right, here's the link for you guys so you have a copy of the notebook, you'd all just stare at that and be like, I'm not typing that whole thing in. When you are posting this to your Schoology or emailing it to a student, it doesn't matter that it's so crazy long. So like I said, I will be sending the link to Mindy so she can pass it out to you. But to get the link again, the 3-line menu, share, and then you have the 2 options. Let the students access the lesson, give a copy to the teachers. I want to warn you that it is not as collaborative as other platforms. So whereas like on Microsoft, you could have 2 teachers working on a Word document. On Google, you could have 2 teachers working on a slide deck at the same exact time. When you share that link to another teacher, it is legitimately making a carbon copy of the presentation for them when they click the link. It is not collaborating. So just be aware that each teacher would have their own digital copy, and once the copy is made, they're not going to see any changes you've made after that fact. So teacher copy, student copy. The student copy is going to, so let me go back to the lesson we did today. That student copy is going to give the students the ability to go slide by slide on their own. So they can go through the notes. They can see all of your slide deck, all the questions. When they get to a slide that's interactive, they can work on that slide from home. When you click student progress, you as the teacher will see their work. Now, if you remember, I had you guys log in as guests. If one of you was to log back in right now, you would end up seeing your name listed twice. Because when you log in as a guest, every time you type in that 6-digit code and log in, it thinks you're a new person. If your kids hit login with Google or login with Microsoft, it is syncing up to their email address and it's going to let them go back in and continue working where they stopped. You as the teacher will be able to see just the one file with all of their work in it. So it's very best practices to not let your students log in as a guest. You want your students to log in with their accounts so that way they can go back later. They can, like if you were to mark stuff on the page, like let's say you put feedback. If they logged in as a guest, they can't go see that feedback. If they're logged in with their account, they can go back and see that feedback. So I know we went through a lot of stuff today and I know that we are running out of time. So are there any specific questions that might have like confused you guys because I went too fast and I know that whole Google Microsoft thing was a little confusing. So I am going to follow up with Mindy on that and make sure we have the correct answer for you guys. But is there anything else that came up that you want to kind of go over one last time? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
For the actual board,
Yes.
where you can hook up your computer, you actually have to plug your computer into it. That's a real basic question, sorry.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. So plugging into the board, yes, you are going to have 2 cables. And I believe that when they set up the boards for you, they're gonna, oops, sorry, I disconnected the cables and my screen flashed on and off for me. So you have 2 cables. You have your HDMI, and you're gonna have a USB. HDMI is your visual and your audio. So just like your television, HDMI is gonna connect your screen and it's gonna connect your sound. The USB is gonna connect the pens. So think about it like if you use a mouse with your, like, so even though you guys have a laptop, do any of you plug in a USB mouse?
Yes.
Okay. Mouse, display. Those are the 2 cables. If you don't use the USB, no matter what you do touching, nothing is going to touch on the board. So you have to plug the USB in. I see you're picking up your laptop looking at the side of it right now. If you don't have the right places on your computer, you can buy a dongle. I know I have I don't know if you can see it the way my camera's angled. So I'll move my camera down. I have this right here. So I have one thing plug into my computer and my other cables all plug into the adapter. So depending on your computer, your school may need to get adapters.
I think you guys are getting training on that part of it.
Yeah, and I believe I'm coming in August to do a hardware training for your district. So once the boards are actually like installed in your schools, we're going to come out and do an actual hardware training for you. So I wanted to show you the boards and get you kind of familiar with what the boards look like, but we'll actually do a full board training in August.
let me ask you a question a while, just so like tech department can be prepared for what's coming.
Okay.
We did have the question of, could you plug a DVD drive directly into the board without a laptop?
Okay.
We were,
I'm going to let you know that I cannot speak to the ethics or the legality of it, but I have seen teachers put Fire Sticks into one of the HDMI ports that work.
okay,
So if it's a USB DVD drive, that I'm not positive about, but if it's like an actual DVD player with a HDMI cable, yes, it would work.
okay, yeah, no, we had gotten them external DVD drives. We're trying to get rid of our old laptops. So the newer laptops don't have a DVD drive. We're trying to, phase this out.
And I do not have one in the office to even test, but what I'll tell you, IT department, there are USB ports on the front of the board. It is possible if you plug the USB DVD in, test it, it might work. I can't guarantee it. I've never tested it before.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because I read something that sounds like it would work, but it was a theoretical and real life is not always.
Well, I do know that like I've seen teachers plug USB cameras directly into it.
Okay.
So you can connect USB accessories. I just don't know 100% if a DVD player would work because it probably needs drivers and stuff.
Okay.
So it just depends. All right, any other questions today? All right, well, I'm gonna put up that slide with my contact information one more time, just so if you didn't get it. But I will be sending, hopefully by the end of today, I will get a copy of all of this to Mindy. And I wrote down notes about your questions, so I will try to get those questions answered for you regarding the Google Microsoft issues. And I will find out about the DVD drive because I'm curious myself now.
Yeah, I read something in the documentation that it sounds like it should work, but I wanted to make sure because we want to get rid of these old laptops, but we have some teachers that use DVDs, and not everything can be found on YouTube, unfortunately. So
well, not everything legal, at least.
Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, I recently found that if you look for the recipe for slime, you can find bootleg Broadway shows. So everything is on YouTube. It's just a matter of knowing the right search terms. All right. So again, I'm pretty sure that I will be with you guys in August to go over the hardware itself. I know that the high school teachers are probably going to be a little jealous because only those of you in today's training, I believe, don't quote me because Mindy could tell me something different tomorrow, but I believe the people in today's training are the ones getting those new boards. So we will be coming out in August to train you on the boards themselves. But if you guys don't have any more questions, I'm gonna let you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a wonderful afternoon. I don't know if you guys have more stuff or if you were just coming into the building for this training today. So it was a pleasure, and don't hesitate to reach out if you think of more questions.